Alright guys, so yeah, this week's story time, I'm trying something a little different here. Instead of recording it on my phone, I'm recording it on my laptop using the webcam, since my phone only has 17 minutes worth of video, and I seem to be running over that. Sometimes I fill my phone up before anything else, so I figured I'll just do it on my laptop, since that has tons of space on it. Yeah, think, Trevor, think. So anyways, this week's story time, I figured I'd do the when I got my chemical license. Next week's Christmas Eve, there will be a story time. If you watch it, good for you. If you don't watch it, well, there's no harm in that. Next week's story time, I'm gonna try to remember that. It'll be on the Cockshut 1800. So sorry for those that probably wanted to hear that one this time instead of listening about how I got my chemical license. But yeah, that'll be next week's story time, and then I'll try to throw together a little Merry Christmas video or whatever. So anyways, this week is on how I got my chemical license. When I was 18 at the time, I decided that the weeds were starting to get Roundup resistant on the farm. There's one weed that we don't know what it is. It's not mare's tail, but it looks like mare's tail, but it's not mare's tail. The seed guy went and I pulled the weed out of the field and I kept it. And when the seed guy came to deliver the seed, he didn't know what it was either. So I don't know. I think we have a mutant cross between a common ragweed, mare's tail, and what's the other one? Mulliflora rosebush. I mean, this thing's a nasty looking weed, and Roundup wasn't touching it. Whenever it would come time to spray, you'd go over the field with the tractor and sprayer and the Roundup, and the Roundup just wouldn't. It wouldn't kill it. It'd kill everything else, but it wouldn't kill this mutant weed. So I had gotten the bright idea that I told Pap, I said, we're going to have to use more potent sprays to try to kill this stuff. And he agreed with me. He agreed and said, but you're gonna have to go get your chemical license. And the first thing that I thought was, well, why do I have to go get the chemical license? And I said, why don't you go get it? He's like, well, you're the one that just said you wanted to use more potent sprays. And I guess, yeah, I did just say I wanted to use more potent sprays. He said, well, then you got to go get your chemical license. So I said, okay. And I had gone to I called the county extension office to see how much the books would cost and all that stuff, and they told me, I forget what it was. I think it was like $25 or something for the books, and I have the books upstairs still. And I was like, oh, all right. I didn't order them right then and there while I was on the phone with the lady, mainly because I didn't really trust the lady I was talking on the phone with. I'm sure she didn't give me bad information, but I was a little bit leery of it, mainly because she just didn't sound like she was 100% sure of the price of the stuff. So I did the old I'll think about it, and then never called her back. But the county did a manure management class. We still had cows at the time, so Pap signed him and me up to go to this manure management class that was over at the county extension office. So we went over to the county extension office and sat through this manure management class, which it was full of useful stuff. That's about the only good thing I can say. It was full of useful stuff. They talked about manure spreader calibration and not to spread manure on hills, not to spread manure too close to streams, and all that other happy hocus pocus. Which I don't see who applies 4 to 6 tons of manure when the ground's frozen. Half the stuff they told us in that class was common sense. I guess people don't have common sense anymore, and they'll dump 8 tons to the acre manure right beside a stream. But that pretty much that whole class was common sense. But anyways, back on the subject. After the manure management class was over, we walked downstairs, and I went over to the counter and talked to the lady because it was still 4 o'clock or whatever, or before 4 because they closed at 4. I had talked to the lady, and she said that they didn't have any of those books or whatever. She'd have to order it, and she told me the same price the other lady told me on the phone, which it was a different lady. I could tell by the voices. So it was $25, and she ordered the books, and I wrote my name down and whatnot. And then like 3 weeks went past, and I didn't hear from him. So I called him and said, "Are my books in?" And she's, yeah, they're in. They've been here for 2 weeks. I said, "Well, you never called me to say they were in." "Oh, sorry, it was in a stack of paperwork and blah, 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 blah." I'm like, "All right, I'll be there this afternoon to get my books." So I had gotten the books. Finally, I got the books, and I come home, and the first thing I did was, Mom says to me, "Do you got any homework?" I said, "Nope, I'm going to read my books." Because at that point, it was senior year in high school. I had 2 classes that were sort of important and kind of hard, but I wasn't. I was done with high school. Senioritis kicked in full throttle. I was done with high school. I did the homework for those classes in the morning, sitting in homeroom. That's how they got done. So I sat down and started reading my books. Very useful information. I might sound sarcastic in that, but I'm not 100%. That is, it's very useful information. I recommend that anyone, even if you already took the class, you got your applicator license, sit through their meetings that they have all the time to get your credits and points and all that good stuff. If you ever need any good reading, sit down and read them books. You sit down and read them books. It's very useful. It has the different chemicals in it, the different names of the chemicals, the shelf names, the chemical names. I think there's even a chart in there on what not to mix with what. But that also might be in my agronomy guide. I think it might be in both of them, in the agronomy guide and the chemical books. But yeah, like this, like right here, I have this I got down at the Independent Ag Field Day. It's backwards, but it says a user guide to spray nozzles. This just has the spray drift stuff and all that, what the different type of nozzles do and whatnot. It's basically the shortened version of, this here is let's see here if I can see this here. This here is the shortened version of this, which is the shortened version of this, as you can see, which I got all this stuff down at the Independent Ag Field Day. As you can see right now, I'm looking at the triple nozzle bodies for the sprayer, because the sprayer has hardy ends on it, and Hardy Ends are ridiculously expensive, if I might say so myself. So I was looking at getting, or thinking of trying to talk Pap into getting, the triple nozzle body with the T-jet ends on it. That way we can put a flat fan fertilized nozzle and a drift reducing nozzle on it, and then just spin them around. But anyways, yeah, so I had gone and got the so I told the ag teacher in school, once I got the books, that I was studying for it, and he's like, oh, that's great. He encouraged me, yada yada yada, does like what all teachers are supposed to do. Encouraged me. He's like, yeah, definitely go get it. And then I guess the next day something clicked and something registered from the time I told him to the next day I saw him, because he says the next time he sees me, he says, I'm thinking about getting a group of kids together to get their applicator license. I said, okay. And he's like, that means that I can give you a ride to take the test. I said, really? You can give me a ride to take the test? He's like, yeah. He's like, if I get a group of kids together, we'll call it a school field trip, and we'll all go over to the county extension office the day of the test and take the test. I'm like, okay. Alright, that sounds like a plan. So he got a group of kids together. They all got their books. Actually, they got one extra book than I did. I guess he's also on the board of he's on the board of something that deals with the county extension cooperative. I'm not sure what he's on or whatnot, but whenever he ordered the books for the other kids that were taking this test as well as me, whenever they got a nice folder that had the thick book, the thin book, and a really thin book that was the rules and regulations in PA. Whenever I got mine from the county, I only got the thick book and the sort of thin book, not the really thin book with the book of laws. So whenever they got theirs, they were actually a smidge bit better off than I was, because they had that book of laws. So they all studied for the test, which was the same day. It was in January sometime. Or maybe it was in March. I don't know, I can't remember. There's so many things running through my head right now, I can't remember half of it. But anyways, we all got that day came, they signed us out of school for a half a day. We went down 8 o'clock in the morning, went in the ag room. We all went out, hopped in the school van, and went to the county extension office. So we sat there and we took the test. The test is open book. I highly recommend anybody, if they want to get their chemical license, to do it now or soon. Unless they already changed the laws, because they're trying to make the private ones the same as the commercial ones, which are closed book. If you study hard, it's no big deal that it's a closed book test, because it's half of it's common sense. But if you're not really going to study for it, then open book's a big deal. Excuse me. But so I went and took the test, which I thought it was a fair test. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy. I studied awfully hard for it. I think I studied for 2 weeks. Every night I'd come home from school and hit the books. Not my school books, the books to get certified for the applicator test. And then so I was prepared for the test. Now here's where the other kids were a little bit better off than I was. On the test, there was 3 questions about pesticide storage in the state of Pennsylvania. That was not in the really thick book or the sort of thick book. That was in the really thin book that was the rules and regulations of PA. So I didn't have that book. So I had to guess. Which, it was alright. I didn't have it. One question wasn't going to fail me on the test. So after the test was all done, there was a little pizza shop down the street from the extension from the county office. So we all went to this pizza shop. I was 3/4 sick that day. I remember it very well. I was sicker than a dog. But there was no way I was skipping school because I had a free ride to the county office to take this test. So we had all went down to this pizza shop, and the ag teacher bought us lunch. I think there was 10 of us in a group, and the ag teacher bought us all lunch. So all I got was like a Sprite and a slice of cheese pizza because I felt awful. I mean, I felt like I was going to throw up at any minute. So that's why I got the Sprite. Well, they only signed us out of school for a half a day. So a half a day, according to the wonderful Pennsylvania school system, is, I think, 12 o'clock, where you got to be in school for 4 hours or something like that, and then it's a half a day, even though school only lasts like 6.5 hours, something like that. So, the ag teacher didn't realize that we got out of the test at 12 o'clock, and we didn't eat lunch yet. So by the time we got back to school, it was 5 minutes after 1 we got back to school. He was flying in the school van to get us back to school so we weren't going to get in too much trouble. We weren't going to get in any trouble. He was going to get in a little bit of trouble because he had us out later than what he signed us all out for. So by the time I got back to school, I wanted to get back to school at 10 minutes after 1, not 5 minutes after 1. Because getting back at 10 minutes after 1 was the end of a class period, so I would have ended up missing a total class and then just staying in his classroom because I had vet science at 1:10. But instead, we got back at 1:05, which meant I had to go to calculus class. Which wasn't a big deal. I didn't mind calculus class. The only difference was the teacher in calculus class was a little bit of a jackwagon. He was one that he played by the books, and he only played by the books. The rules in the books were the rules in the books, and that's how it went. There was no leniency whatsoever. I have mixed feelings on that. So I walked into class at 5 after 1. I had a signed excuse, whatever, yada yada yada. He looks at me, he says, "You were only signed out till 12 o'clock. Where were you?" I said, "Well, I was at the county extension office taking the test for my private applicator license." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, you were only signed out till 12 o'clock. Why weren't you here? Why weren't you here to class on time?" I said, "Well, I was at the..." So by this point, I was irritated because I just wanted to walk into class, sit down, do whatever, write down what was on the board for 5 minutes, and then leave. That's all I wanted to do. But the teacher wanted to sit there, and I walked in the door. The last 5 minutes of class, he assigned homework. Everyone worked on their homework, and he sat at his desk, playing on his computer. So I walked in the door. They were all doing their homework. He was sitting at his desk playing on his computer. I could have made a very easy entrance, sat down, no questions asked. But instead, I walked in the door. He had to make a big scene that I went out and got my private, that I was late to class, even though I wasn't really late because I was on a school field trip. So he started getting a little, I guess, agitated. I don't know why, because I had a legit excuse that I was out, a teacher screwed up. Sorry, buddy, get over it. So then he started going on, well, what do you need this private applicator license for? I said, so I can buy restricted use chemicals. And then he went, well, what do you need restricted use chemicals for? And I said, well, to put on the crops. We got weed. I got weeds we got to kill. So then at this point, I was getting beyond irritated and just wanted to hurl a line of curse words 12 miles long at this guy. And I guess he could tell that I was starting to get beyond irritated, because I'm the kind of person that once you get me irritated, there's no going backwards. Some people, you can try to calm them down for a little while, but once I get irritated, you might as well just shut up and walk away, because all that just keep talking to me, and you're just going to keep pushing my buttons until I let the hurl of curse words fly at you. And he didn't realize this. So whenever he started going after me for showing up to class late, even though I was on a school field trip, he had started pushing my buttons to the point where I was beyond irritated and wanted to tell this guy to go screw himself. I didn't use the actual language, but excuse me for any children that are watching. But yeah, so after he did all this pushing me, he started trying to make casual conversation on what crops we raised. I was beyond irritated at this point and wanted to go shove the guy's laptop in his face. I mean, you can't go from giving me a ridiculously hard time for showing up to class with 5 minutes to go. He should have been happy I showed up to class. So then he tried making conversation on what crops we raised on the farm. No, you don't do that. You just the best thing to do is to walk away from a heated situation. To give an easy comparison, he basically took a glass bottle, threw it on the ground, broke it, then tried to put the pieces back together and use it. No, it's not going to happen. I wasn't going to let that happen. So I just sat there and said corn, and by that time I got saved by the bell. The bell for school rang and I was out of there. I sat in the back of the room and I was the first one out that door. I was gone. And I don't know if he to this day realized that he beyond ticked me off. I actually did like calculus class until that day whenever I saw that teacher's true colors. And then after that, I dreaded going to calculus class every day. So, yeah. But anyways, I think 3 weeks went past. I found out the results of the test, and I passed. I don't know how well I passed. I mean, I really would like to know how many questions I got wrong on that test, because I was going for a 100% on that test. There are certain tests that I won 100% on them, and that was one of them. So I just found out I passed and whatever. So now I have to go get every 3 years. I have to get those accumulate the six core and 6 category points in order to keep my license, and every 3 years pay my $10. Which isn't that big of a deal, but I screwed up last year. The local McCormick dealer has every year like a Wednesday evening sprayer meeting sometime in January, and it's 2 core and 2 category points. Well, I went the first year I had the license. I didn't know when it was last year because they didn't. We didn't, nothing broke, so we never went over there to see when it was. So this year I'm kind of up a creek without a paddle at the moment. I have to go to. Well, I went to the only reason I went to the Independent Ag Open House was because they were advertising 2 core and 2 category points. I only ever got the 2 core points. I needed the 2 category points as well. So right now I'm sitting at 4 core points and 2 category points. So I still have to go to 2 more of the 2 core and 2 category point things. So I'm planning on going up to the Coyote dealer for their sprayer meeting. And then probably I'll end up going to Messick's or one of theirs. Messick's or some other local dealership that has one, so I can get 2 points. Because I went through all this hocus pocus to get this stinking license, and I am not going to lose it over 2 core and 2 category points. There's just no way, no how. Because in my opinion, gramoxone is a blessing, and atrazine is a blessing as well. So to any of you out there that don't have it and are thinking about getting it, it is definitely worth getting it, and going through all the crap that you got to go through to get it. Actually, I'm thinking about going again and getting my getting certified to make nutrient management plans. Because in order to spread chicken manure, you gotta have you're supposed to have these wonderful things called nutrient balance sheets. Again, it's from some nitwit out there probably dumped 12 tons of chicken manure within 3 feet of the creek, and it all ran into the creek, and now the Chesapeake Bay Foundation's all up in arms. I do realize there's actually environmental problems, and the Chesapeake Bay is getting contaminated, but I also think that all them rules are stuff's way over exaggerated. But yeah, so that's the wicked long story on how I got my pesticide applicator license. So next week, stay tuned. There'll be a story on the purchase of the 5065E and all that fun stuff, which also involves the Cockshutt 1800. Sadly, I don't have pictures of the 1800, nor do I have pictures of when the 5065E was delivered, because that was before I had one of these smartphones. That was before I actually got a real cell phone and was using one of them little flip phones. So, yeah. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and please comment, rate, and subscribe. Have a good day, guys.